Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Brian, Breaking Down Security. We are at full strength this week. Mr. Betcher, Ms. Belena here.
Hey,
what?
hey.
Yeah, awesome. Mr. Betcher was his daughter's. What were you doing? What were you doing that last week with your daughter?
B-ball tryouts.
Ah, right.
Very nice.
Like junior varsity kind of stuff?
No, pre-high school.
Oh.
Yeah, just getting some spring training in, I guess.
All right.
Getting ready for all that good stuff.
So like what, for baseball, Little League, but for basketball?
Basketball, yeah.
Nice. Okay. All right.
Yep. I'm about to do the whole Little League thing here soon.
Really?
Like, not me. My middle son.
Oh, okay.
Are you coaching, though? You coaching?
No. I
yell at the umpires?
I do assistant coach stuff when they need me to fill in, but I feel like I'm doing too much already, and I shouldn't also be an assistant coach, full-time. But yeah, I do a little bit.
I think I'd probably have to be a coach if my daughter ever did sports like that, because I would be the awful parent in the stands going, "What are you doing?" So yeah, I would have to.
No, he's only 10, so
that's the worst time if you're a parent doing that stuff, because you want your kid to do so well, and
Yeah, he's one of the more athletic out of the three. So
that's good. Okay.
The youngest has absolutely no interest in it at all.
Right on. Yeah, my daughter unfortunately tried soccer, I think, when she was 3, or for you non-U.S. Americans.
Dude, soccer, watching little kids play soccer, like, if you want to learn how soccer works, that is not the time to learn.
It was everybody wanted to be on the ball, so it's around.
Oh yeah. Like, where'd the goalie go? Nope, they're gone. Like, good thing they're wearing a different colored shirt.
Goalie's over there looking at daffodils. And, yeah. But that was 3 years old too, so she hasn't really had an interest in sports since we moved from San Diego about 10 years ago. So she enjoys choir and art and anime. So I get to hear about Black Butler and Attack on Titan and all the good stuff like that. So anyway, all right. So Mr. Betcher, before we get started, Breaking Down Incident Response number 10 came out. What did so for people who listen to Breaking Down Security, maybe tell us a little bit about what y'all did this month.
What we did this month, or did overall? Let me see. What did we do this month? Well, usually we try to have a malware sample, talk about that, what it does, some of the new cool things that happen there, how to detect it, how to adjust your SIM, if you have a SIM, to alert you on those type of attacks. And as far as what we talk about, I don't know. I'm so busy, and that was last week, so I'm not sure what the topic was. I'd have to check through my notes.
That was a long time ago, man.
I know. I don't even know what I was doing last week.
I've slept numerous times since then.
I mean, I looked at pictures that I took earlier today. I'm like, oh man, that was this morning.
I can't remember what I did before my nap today.
Let's see. So you guys talked about some of the not petya bills, insurance company, 2-factor auth bypass, questioning marks. These are the show notes that Goff puts up. Mr. Goff, 773 million passwords circulating from past breaches. So they only do this on a monthly show. So, some of this stuff has been covered by numerous podcasts. So you did a malware of the month, first SEDNet UEFI rootkits. Okay, very cool. Okay. And topic of the day, agent or not agent. So,
So you, as a security person, you have to install security software, right, on the endpoints, or at least you probably should, unless you have a bunch of other mitigating controls. But you get a lot of pushback from your IT departments on, damn, we can't have another agent. It's going to hose all of our systems and decrease productivity for the entire company. Our developers won't be able to. So we talk about that and how to get around it. It's a topic of conversation more often than I'd like to have. But how do you handle the we can't handle another agent conversation?
Well, you just have to take stock of your resources that are running on the boxes, right? And another 2 or 3%, another 2 or 3% you're not using to crunch data or, using your Splunk.
Well, maybe if you patch your system this month, you may be able to pick up that extra 2-3%, right?
There's actually a patch this month that they, we can talk about. I want to ask Ms. Berlin about GrumpySec before we get started first. What is GrumpySec?
You had to just kill that segue.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. It's in the list. We have a show notes thing, and I'm kind of trying to follow the line.
I was going to say, did something that Brian said sound grumpy? Like, I don't know. We didn't really segue well.
No, I had a tweet this week, though, that people told me it was something of legend, but...
no, it's just another podcast / Twitch stream thing that I know a couple people that do. So Rob Fuller or Mubix does helps run it. I don't know if he started it or what the history of it is. I feel like it's been a thing for a while. Really? But he just I don't know if he just knew that I was home bored alone on Wednesday, looking for something to do. But yeah, they invited me on, and it's just one of those things where you bring some news articles and then you be grumpy about them. Right. And they finish with some positive notes and stuff. But it was interesting.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It went on for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay. What episode are you on?
Whatever aired the 28th.
Okay. If you
27th.
If you got a link or something.
Yeah, I'll try and find the link to it.
Okay, because everything I'm finding for GrumpySec is something completely different. It hasn't been recorded on in 5 years, so I don't think that's it. So.
No, the other's a Twitch stream, but I guess it only stays online for a couple weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Twitch streams stay online for a couple weeks and then they disappear. So it's more of a listen to it live thing, I guess.
Ephemeral, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, if Mr. Mubix ever wants to come on the show, I think he's been on the show once, but we could always have him on again.
Oh, definitely. I'll ask him.
Yeah. All right. So, wow. I'm glad you made that comment, Mr. Betcher. Anyway, so there's so we've got a news story, but I've
edit that later. Put Amanda first, and then okay.
no, we one take.
Not at all.
There's no fancy production values here. It's one take. We're gonna push on through, by gods.
What happened to that intern?
What intern?
The one you had to edit our recordings, no?
Oh, I left that guy in the back of that trunk.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Probably should fix that. Yeah.
Yeah, that road trip. We didn't have room in the front.
They haven't found him now. I mean,
yeah.
It'll become a Netflix documentary eventually.
I never paid him, so there's no paper trail, so we're cool. Anyway, so we have a story. I was just poking around the internets here. Apparently, so all the Spectre stuff, which is 2 years old, Spectre and Meltdown are 2 years old now.
Yeah.
Vulnerabilities came out.
Really does not seem like it's been that long ago.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So, most operating systems came out with the fixes for Spectre and Meltdown, at least some of the variants. Windows, Linux came out in the kernel with something called Retpoline, which actually stands for Return Trampoline, which I found on Tom's Hardware. Because, quote, that's because when they return operations, any associated speculative execution will bounce endlessly. So that's the reason why they call it Retpoline.
That's not what happens on real trampolines, just FYI.
Well, you had your knee done. Yeah, that's right. That's why you had your knee fixed.
You don't bounce endlessly. Just saying.
Right. So apparently the fixes in Windows 10 were supposed to come out in October last year, around that time frame, and due to technical issues, they just released them yesterday. So March 1st.
Kind of not surprised.
Why is that?
I don't know. It seemed like a big deal to fix on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think wasn't the first patch just quit cold turkey? Like, we're not going to do this because it's too risky.
Yep.
Yeah, and for some applications, it was a 35, 40% reduction if it was something that was specific specifically using the speculative functions from what I gathered. Other things was not bad. But if there's a link in the show notes to KB4482887, which is in part of Windows 10. So this Retpoline stuff is only supposed to fix one of the mitigating the vulnerabilities, which is Spectre Variant 2. Mm-hmm. There's this the builds that came out March 1st, which seems to me it's not Tuesday, so this is out of band kind of March stuff. If it hasn't already been pushed out to version 1809 or Windows Server 2019. All versions. I think it's going to affect 2016 as well, but we'll see.
I mean, they've waited this long. Why didn't they just wait until Thursday? Well, honestly, it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, we have to release it on a Friday.
Well, there was a ton of code that they had to redo. They had to recompile in Visual Studio or C++ or whatever with a specific command. So like /q Spectre or something. I have to find that. Wait.
Okay.
So I'm sure that there were some technical challenges involved. Let me see, where was that? Today with kernel developers. I have like 8 different tabs open for this one specific thing. Anyway, so they have a new switch in like C++ or Visual Studio that when you're building code and you want to enable the Spectre Variant 2 stuff, that switch is available. It's a slash kind of thing. So, the funny thing is we've gone complete full circle. It's like Linux had it in for so long, and then everybody's so unhappy with the performance hit, they've made it so that it's optional, or they've disabled it in their own kernel. Windows never had it in the first place, and now they've got it. How long is it before you start seeing people railing against this and saying, hey, it was okay the way it was. A lot of this stuff's still theoretical. We don't necessarily need to do process isolation or anything to reduce the chances of Spectre variants. So I'm kind of looking for that other shoe to drop, and people complain that that's a problem. So they're saying that this is the damage is negligible in many cases. That the performance hit is not going to be awful. They say, let's see, Google had presented performance affection figures claiming 1.5% on Google Cloud servers. However, these servers numbers were significantly higher on Linux distros that incorporated the Retpoline mitigation. So, they're saying that it's mostly, it's not going to be a big, huge deal. So maybe they took a cue from the Linux folks and realized, well, we need to, finesse ours a little bit so that we don't take as much of a perf hit. So I don't know.
That's interesting that it didn't take, they made a big deal out of it when it came out.
Right.
But, seeing like after the fact that it didn't really make that big of a performance hit is interesting.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it took so long, but yeah. It'd be nice if we could talk to some of the people over there, but I'm assuming that we'd have to go through PR companies to.
Oh, I bet.
So, well, it's Redmond, so they have that kind of requirement. Mm-hmm. I've got something here, and so. One of the things that we do on our Slack is we have a CTF club, and we have a pen test and red team channel, and we kind of treat our Slack as it's a never-ending convention or conference in this case. So we have Hallway Con, where everybody talks and brain dumps and does things. But one of our longtime podcast supporters and Patreon supporters, Andrei, posted in the PowerShell channel, because we have a specific channel for PowerShell, about something called UndertheWire.tech. And what it is it's a PowerShell wargame thing. So if you've never used PowerShell and you want to learn how to use the commands and do everything, Under the Wire is kind of a take on Over the Wire, which is a very simple wargame type solution that I always suggest people do if they ever want to learn things like reverse engineering or debugging applications, or, if you start with the Bandit war game on Over the Wire, it'll just teach you basic Linux commands. So the PowerShell war game Under the Wire, very interesting. I was actually SSHing into a Windows box, and then it drops me into a PowerShell, and they give you hints. It's like, let me see. And there's various commands. So if you've never used PowerShell, you can invoke various things to do do commands like on the system itself remotely. Let me see.
So recently on the stuff that I've been writing, I did I wrote like, it's not really a signature, I guess. It's more like just a sim rule on detecting PowerShell escalation,
right?
Like privilege escalation stuff. And one of the things, it's not in that specific role, but that I have on my list to do is anything with -force as a PowerShell command is starting to alert on anything with -force, because you can do a lot of bad stuff if you throw that flag on
without user interaction. Yeah,
Yep.
We'll get to that a little bit later. That was a good segue. But yeah, so if you don't know PowerShell or you're wanting to learn how to use PowerShell, this is definitely a way. UndertheWire.tech, TECH, and
is it it's run by the same people or no?
I don't know. I want to say it. Underwire was conceived on a business trip between two co-workers in 2015. One was a cybersecurity technician rapidly developing experience in the field. The other was an operations manager entering cybersecurity field. They were both fond and engaging Linux command line war game called Over the Wire. They enjoyed the war games and were impressed with the impact on their technical development. So they realized that Windows Enterprise was not a Linux environment. It was about the time that one proclaimed to the other, if there was PowerShell training for the people, so the people might be strong and powerful. The cry for knowledge was heard and accepted. So they actually created this themselves. So it started as a humble 2008 Core virtual machine. So Core, I believe, is headless. So you have to have some kind of command line access to it. So they created the first war game called Century, which is the one I'm running through. Focused on system admin tasks to develop comfort in the command line environment and provide initial exposure to the capabilities of PowerShell. So they've added some more war games. There's Cyborg, Groot, Oracle, and Trebek, and they all have various levels. Some of them have hints. It's like, the password for Trebek 4 is the IP that the user Yoda last logged in from as depicted in the events log. So you have to use all PowerShell stuff to find, how to read the logs, how to, figure out what the password that Yoda used to log in and stuff. So it's quite interesting. I haven't even gotten to the Trebek levels yet, but I assume they're fairly difficult. They do have a Slack, or it's a Slack. To get the passwords for Century, you have to log in and get those. I'm not sure how you do it for Cyborg and all those other ones. Oh, you have to go to, so each war game starts where you have to get into the Slack, which is underthewire.herokuapp.com, and sign up and get your passwords and get started. So if you're interested in learning PowerShell, go ahead and do that. You have to have an SSH client like Putty. You'll SSH into the Windows 2000 or Windows Server box and on port 22, and you'll get dropped into a PowerShell prompt and have at it. So there you go.
Very cool.
Under the Wire stuff. Yeah, they don't pay us. I've been playing around with that last night and some today, and found it very, very interesting. So, as somebody who doesn't do PowerShell and completely screwed that up, so. So, Ms. Berlin, as to your segue there, one of the things that when I started doing the Century stuff, they were like, well, you've got one of two ways to connect to the server. You can do SSH to the box, and I was like, oh, yeah, that's for me. Or you can do PSremoting, and I'm like, what is PSremoting? Must be something new in the PowerShell world. Well, I'm a dumbass, and I mentioned that in the PowerShell channel, and people are like, no, that's been around since like 2009. And I'm like, oh, gods. Okay.
Yeah, all the remote management stuff through PowerShell.
Right. WinRM.
As soon as, I don't know if it was that one or not that came out, but whenever like Server Core came out, maybe 2008 or 10 or something, when you could do Server Core, like managing the entire server with PowerShell. That's when PS Remote came out, I think.
Yeah. So, I got taken to task the fact that I didn't know, and that's okay.
That's not something you do.
It isn't, it would have been very helpful to know about PSremoting back in the day when I had to try to build OpenSSH for Windows because the company I was working for was too cheap to license like TerraTerm or whatever the hell it was that we were Reflections, WS Reflections. Oh my God. Wow. Just flashed back there. Yeah. So instead of paying $5,000-6,000 a license to send out a middleware solution with 5,000 licenses to various clients, they wanted us to build and compile from MingGW32 the OpenSSH stuff. So that was difficult, but if I'd have known about PSremoting, I might have suggested that to them. So there you go. So PSremoting is a method by which you can interact with orgs. I actually did it here. I have a VM running on my MacBook here, and I have my Surface, which is running and testing out some Zoom recording functions for us. But I was actually able to remote back and forth, and you have to have WinRM running on both boxes, it seems. You can't have it just running on one and not the other, because I guess it's a bi-directional kind of control thing. If I'm wrong, please feel free to join the Slack and tell me that I'm less than correct. Mr. Betcher, you said you guys use PSremoting at your office.
Yes, WinRM. It's what we always called it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And you do it through GPO. So,
what do you mean do it through GPO? Is it
you set it up
GPO or okay? All right, so it's a lot easier to set up. So how does it's all just PowerShell commands then?
Yeah,
because there's a ton of commands. I've got a link in the show notes to version 6 of PowerShell, and there must be 300-400 commands, and they're not like typical format. Like
not all. I don't think all of it's PowerShell. You can do some of it just regular command line.
Oh, really? Like you mean like ipconfig, dir, that kind of stuff?
But I'm not sure. Isn't it through PowerShell? Well, we just use PowerShell with it.
Yeah.
Right. So
I guess I'm just thinking WinRM, because you can do other things with WinRM.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be PowerShell. So like all of WEF with the Windows Event Forwarding,
mm-hmm.
you have to use WinRM for, and none of that's none of that's really PowerShell related.
Right. Well, when I set it up in the VM and on my Surface, I had to be root. I had to be admin to enable it because it wasn't enabled by default. I think I had it turned off. I didn't use the force thing, which you were talking about earlier, to suppress all user input or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that also suppresses UAC prompts and such.
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Because I didn't get any other prompts other than just the UAC prompt, because as admin or whatever. So I was just wondering. But yeah, you have to your network settings have to be set to private, not public, so that you can notice everybody on the network, which was one of the things that stymied me. It seemed like before I started doing the podcast, I tried doing everything again and it screwed up. But at one point it seemed like I had to have both WinRM running on both machines. And you have to set up like a trusted user list when you set that up. There was a whole big bunch of stuff. So, doing it by GPO would be a definite ease or easier way of doing it. So, the one good thing I did notice that when you ask for credentials to connect to the server, if you're using something like a live.com account, which is what I am using on my VMs, it still takes it. So it's good. I would assume it works for either a live.com account or a regular local user. So
okay.
That was something I found very cool. So
I hate the live.com account stuff for logging into domains. It drives me insane.
Why? Because you got to remember the @live.com, or
no, just because I'm not used to it being connected to the cloud or whatever.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well, we're all
no, I want to log in with my domain account on my domain. I don't want it to do anything in the cloud.
Yeah, we're all one big giant Active Directory server in the cloud.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah. So,
I think it allows WMI as well. Amanda, now that you mention it.
What's that?
WinRM.
Oh, okay.
I think I did see something about WMIC in the slot. One of the links that I looked at. What is so for those people who have not listened to what WMIC is on a previous show? What is that, Mr. Petcher?
Windows Management Instrumentation.
Right.
It was a long time ago where they came up with this standard. It was supposed to be OS agnostic, right? And it was based on sort of queries. So you'd write this query to whatever operating system it was, and it would give you back the data. And so Windows built this whole WMI platform, and I don't think the other operating systems did the same. I could be wrong.
Sounds like
but anyway, it was I guess pre-PowerShell way of remote managing operating system.
Yeah, a lot of asset management and monitoring and stuff would always use WMI.
Yeah, sounds like an SNMP kind of thing, but for Windows,
a little bit better.
Yeah, maybe it actually is more secure. I don't know.
No.
It could be, but
then WMI, like a WMI, SNMP.
As far as detection, it people don't try to detect all the WMI stuff, so it tends to be stealthy in that respect.
Yeah. Okay, very cool. Yeah. So most people out there are probably like, "Wow, can't believe he doesn't know about that." But yeah, I was just poking around with it. I probably will play around a little more with it on a couple of videos.
You've probably done more than most people, which is actually test it.
Yeah, it worked. It worked fairly well. The How to Geek link we have in here was like, oh yeah, I can view the contents of the C drive or whatever. So I'm sure there's more. If it's as powerful as y'all say it is, then you should be able to use this if you can't get SSH put on your newer boxes. So there you go. Yeah. So so we have a couple more stories. Ms. Who put the watch list on there? Who was that?
I did.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So what's the watch list all about? The Dow Jones watch list?
Just yet another database found online.
but it's.
It was indexed, tagged, and searchable watch list from Dow Jones. It's 2.4 million records of risky businesses and people.
Not the podcast.
Guess not that kind of risky business.
Oh, right.
But businesses I guess financial institutions use it as a basis on who to loan money to and for how much percentage and all that kind of stuff. It was just big database of stuff again, because it happens every 5 seconds.
So they're all risky. This just measures how much risk.
Right.
So there may be.
I just want to know the top 10.
It's just 2.4.
What, are you going to sell short?
One.
Okay, so it's not just businesses. I was thinking there were 2.4 million businesses that were out there, but it's not just businesses. There's
people too.
As well. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And the database it's indexed, tagged, and searchable, has names, addresses, locations, date of birth, physical descriptions, primary languages, relatives, genders, and photos.
Anyone named Brian is number one.
Really?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. No, sorry.
So how can I tap this database?
It's out there somewhere, I'd imagine.
I'm sure we know people.
My thing is, there's probably people I know that are on it.
I'm sure not all of us. We're not important enough to be on there.
Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah,
it's only 2.4 million people.
Yeah, and businesses. So, they said at this time, our review suggests this resulted from unauthorized third-party misconfiguration of an AWS server. So,
surprise.
So S3 bucket.
Yeah,
bucket got leaked.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. That's normally where you would put this kind of data, I would imagine. And the data is no longer available, they said. Okay.
Didn't you say this was the public stuff? This was public information?
I thought a lot of this stuff was public info. They said they left the watch list on a public server without password protection, but
I mean, maybe it wasn't supposed to be public. It was.
I just wonder how they assume what a risky business is. They say, so it says which companies are used to determine risky potential client. For instance, government agencies and banks use it to determine whether to provide financing.
So like the credit score for businesses?
I guess so. Here it is. Past and elected officials, sanctioned people and companies, individuals with terrorism links.
Yeah.
Special
I could see that.
interest persons, and people convicted of financial crimes. So
just sounds like opposition research, right?
Yeah. I mean, and
kind of like that.
You would think that people convicted of financial crimes is going to be fairly public, like, you know,
right, and like a good list for most people to have that are in finance.
Right.
Like, all of the people that ran Enron, like, probably shouldn't loan them money.
Yeah. Martha Stewart,
right.
Embezzling people, the WorldCom folks.
Oh yeah.
What was that? Merrill Lynch? No, which was it? There was Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs. AIG, Goldman Sachs. Yeah. All those folks. I think the thing is the names, addresses, dates of birth, those things are probably the bigger issue than what company or what people were on it. So, okay.
I like that it had didn't it say like physical attributes or whatever too?
Yeah. What is
like that? Dude with weird hair.
Guy with limb. Oh my God.
Oh, so many things I want to say and I can't.
So what if the sort of like the 23andMe database gets hacked? Then you have a bunch of things.
Haven't they before?
About everyone.
That, maybe the other one. Huh? Haven't they before? Like, isn't that one of the big issues why people don't like using them?
No, it's because of all the information they're now sharing.
I thought they got breached, though. Not 23andMe, but the other one.
No, I want to say that there's a genetic company that was bought just recently, like 23andMe or something.
Well, I'm sure they have plenty of data that they can sell things like insurance companies.
Yeah.
Should we insure this person? Well, you may want to look at their DNA because they're at high risk for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if you can send in your DNA without like identifying who you are?
I did it because I did the 23andMe thing just to prove the point that my grandmother's grandmother wasn't full-blooded Cherokee Native American. Because that's what me and my wife had both been told, and I was like, oh, that means we might be related, and then find out we're less than 1% Native American. I was like, I kind of expected it to be crap, but
right.
You can say, I don't want to share any information with people who might realize that I'm closely related to them. You also, when
can't give them a fake name.
Oh,
I bet you they can figure out who you are based on people related to you have already sent in their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, probably. Right? Like my brother's sending all of his stuff. Yeah. So
they're pretty much like, we don't know who this is, but this is so-and-so's sister.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, law enforcement's already solved crimes using this kind of data. It was like, oh, we noticed that, somebody related to this person has caused a crime. And it might be a cousin or it might be a brother or depending on what familial traits or what.
I mean, that is kind of neat. Like, I like that part.
Yeah. And then you hear this story from July 26, 2018, where $300 million stake from GlaxoSmithKline in 23andMe was announced because that allows the pharmaceutical giant to use the genetic data to develop new drugs. So, yeah, it was only a matter of time before something like that occurred.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean,
what can we sell you now?
Yeah. You're
right.
What's going to be most profitable?
Yeah, exactly. And, I knew there was going to be privacy issues when that came about, but it's the only, that was why Congress, I think, was trying to push, or they may have pushed legislation to make it so that insurers can't, discriminate against you on insurance because of genetic tests, because they're not 100% yet. I mean, they just say, oh, you have a higher rate of this or a higher chance of this, and because of X,
What happens if we start sending in each other's blood?
That would have been the only way you probably could have blocked it, but yeah.
But then, like, you might be tied to a crime that you didn't commit. Yeah. I swear that wasn't my blood.
Yeah. Wait, I've got a new sample. Wait, I don't have an XX chromosome. Wait, what's going on there? All right. So, one last news story. Ms. Berlin, talk to us about Thunderclap.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't know this. I know this was a thing for USB, but Thunderclap is a direct access memory vulnerability for Thunderbolt ports.
Mm-hmm.
Just running like arbitrary code over like any physical means plugged into a Thunderbolt port.
Right. And yeah, I remember hearing this on the actual Risky Business podcast with Metal Storm.
Right.
He was working on FireWire stuff back in the day. And then, as USB 3 came out and the Type-C connectors, which are, they're older versions of Thunderbolt, but yeah, I guess you have direct memory access when you plug into these things, so it's not hard to set that up. So,
yep. And I guess it's different than like bad USB. And I thought it was. I guess this is like the Thunderbolt 3 version hardware, not like the one that looks like USB-C. It's not like the older, like more squared out type.
Yeah, they're like the mini display ports.
Right.
Yeah, they're the Thunderbolt 2 on the Mac. So
yeah.
So is there any way to get around this? Is there
don't use a Mac.
Well, it's not just Mac, right? It's
right.
anything with Thunderbolt. So Mac,
right.
FreeBSD, any of the BSDs. So it affects all operating systems.
Like not plugging in things that you don't know where they came from. Yeah, like only approving device that you trust, but
it's
not.
A life lesson.
Yeah.
Right.
Every time I go to a coffee shop or an airport, I see people walking away from their stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah. That bothers me to the point where I need to leave. And
Bill, come get your coffee. All right.
Yeah, well, I was working out of a coffee shop the other day, and there's a super douchebaggy like medical student guy, and like screaming at tech support because he couldn't get into his Office 365 account, and walked away to the bathroom, laptop's fully open. Like, I mean, obviously his username and password isn't working anyways. Right. He like left it open. And, yeah, he's like, I don't care anymore.
Sounds like he didn't know what his app password was to be able to log into that. So,
yeah.
Face Dancer, a USB shape-shifting device and crossing guard.
Say what now?
I was trying to read that too, but then I got talking.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Face Dancer.
Oh, there it is. Huh.
They just mention it in passing, but they have a link.
Dartmouth.edu. Cross perimeter bus, a new attack surface for embedded systems.
Bad USB then?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, any of this new technology that has access to kernel level stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's a USB emulator fuzzer.
Yeah, you can purchase a device from int3.cc.
It's only $85.
Wow, there you go.
Oh, they're out of stock though.
Oh,
that's sad. You can pretend to be a USB device from Python.
Okay. USB protocol requires anything with USB declare itself as a device or a host. Hosts are computers and other big things. Devices are iPod, iPads, USB drives, and other small accessories. Okay. So you can pretend to be a USB device from Python. Man, is there anything Python can't do?
Right.
Jeez. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So if you want to fuzz some USB stuff, go grab one of them Face Dancer things.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that might actually be. Ooh. I'm glad you brought that to my attention. We may need that at work. Anywho, I don't have anything else. Mr. Betcher, you mentioned on the Breaking Down Incident Response some malware this week. It's another UEFI malware. Are we seeing more of those, or is that just still a flash in the pan? Because it sounds like we may need my friend Leon, who knows a little bit about UEFI and BIOS.
I don't know. It could be another flash in the pan. No, we'll see. I mean, we're going to have another good one this next month, which we'll probably record soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I had hoped to get some audio from B-Side Seattle, but I didn't feel it. It was, I actually went and saw as Ms. Berlin and I were talking last week, I actually sat down and watched the talks. Normally when I pull audio, it's like, oh, that guy looks interesting. Let me go talk to him. And then it's like after the talk and I haven't seen his talk or her talk. And yeah, so this time I was like bouncing. We only had two tracks, but I was trying to hit as many people as I could with talking. We actually have some of the speakers lined up right now. We are talking to them to get them on. So I think it'll be better off than like grabbing quick 10 minutes of audio from them or whatever. So
that was actually one of the topics we talked about on the GrumpySec thing was it was kind of a not argument, but like discussion about what would you rather do all LobbyCon? Would you rather go to a talk? Would you go to 2 talks? Would you spend your whole time in talks? Like if you get more out of sitting there and listening because like it's the energy in the room and the ability to talk to the person afterwards,
right?
Versus like watching it after when you go home.
Yep.
And like I usually, at least I can't now because I run villages and stuff. It seems that now I want to go to talks that I can't. Right. I've always, for the most part, watched them when I get home. Like I'll say, all right, if I can, I'll get to like this friend's talk, or I'll go to like these couple that I really, really am interested in, and I might have questions afterwards. And then the rest of them, I just like write down a list and watch later.
Right. And you actually watch them later, though.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
I'm not going to watch the whole conference. Honestly, right. Because there's not a lot of stuff just doesn't pique my interest, because it's not stuff that I need to know or want to know or whatever. But yeah, like, I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, I've gone back and watched talks that I've missed and have gotten some really good things out of them. So I can't think of an example offhand, but there have been at least half a dozen to a dozen in the last couple of years, probably from DerbyCon alone, that I've watched online after the conference and got some ideas, tested those ideas, and I may have incorporated them into LogMD, some of the mitigations for those attacks, right. Things like that. So it's really helpful. To go to these conferences, and even if you don't make a talk, watch that talk afterwards.
And I've always struggled to pay attention when I'm sitting there. Like I'll be on my phone, I'll be doing other things, and I'll miss stuff. And
You're one of those.
I won't take notes as well. Like I just like am all over the place. I would rather watch 10 minutes of the talk, take some notes, go do something else, come back, watch another 20 minutes of talk, take notes, rewind, take more, like right. Just go back and forth like that. It's very hard for me to sit for an hour and gain all of that at once. Right. Yeah. Because if I'm in there, I won't take physical notes. Like I stopped doing that a long time ago. So I either have to take my laptop in there or struggle through trying to do it on my phone. So yeah, it's usually better for me if I do it afterwards. Like I've even done both. Like if I've really gotten a lot out of a talk that I've been sitting in, I'll go and watch it again when I get home.
Yeah. I actually took physical notes for the one in B-Side Seattle. It was an interesting thing for me, but yeah, I actually got quite a bit out of it. So, like with hopefully if we can convince our the person we just emailed to come on. What I did right after the talk was I went up there. I was like, hey, great job. Do you do podcasts? And, they're like, maybe. And I was like, you're going to get, roughly 3,000 to 4,000 people listening to your talk. So
right.
You really want a larger audience. We're kind of a big deal on the internet.
Kind of a big deal.
We're kind of a big deal. Yeah. New leather-bound books, our office.
Oh yes.
Smells of rotten apples. Anyway, so yeah, so far, everybody's been very, very positive about, at least answering emails about coming on the show. So, it shows interest, and it's. I think if we're spending the money to go to conferences, we should at least go and do some part of all the conference. There's the lobby con, there's the actual talks, so you should at least try to find one or two talks.
And always go to all of ours, obviously.
Yes.
Right? That's a given.
Yes. We're all planning on being at Derby, whether or not we get a ticket. But I would really like to be able to go and see some of the talks if, beforehand. So anyway, all right. Well, Mr. Boettcher, Miss Berlin, this was the first time in, I think, a month since we've all been on. Everybody is going to be somewhere fancy in the next couple, 3-4 weeks. Mr. Boettcher, where are you going to be at?
I'll be at BD's Austin again this year. If you recall last year, I don't know, have you heard this story where I saw someone give a talk and I introduced myself afterwards and asked her to be on the show, and that's where we've all got to know the indelible Megan Roddy. So hopefully,
don't know.
She made fun of me. She's like, "Oh yeah, you say Megan, like everyone knows who I am." Oh no, everybody does know who you are.
Yeah,
she's awesome. Yeah, we were.
Now she's involved in everything.
That was one of, I think, of our best podcasts last year, 2018, when we had Ms. Megan Roddy on talking about neurodiversity. And what's interesting is I've seen other people now giving neurodiversity talks as well on the conference circuits. So she's also a moderator of our Slack and an awesome lady. So if you're interested in talking to her, she's on our Slack and is available for questions. So you're going to be at B-Sides Austin. Are you an organizer of that, or are you just hanging out?
No, this year I'm just hanging out.
Okay, cool. Miss Berlin, you're going to be doing some hacker mental health villages at like a couple of places?
Yeah, I have four so far. Yeah, 4 so far scheduled. B-Sides Austin's next, and then B-Sides Nashville. So B-Sides Austin will have the full thing, right? We're going to have talks and massage therapists and the whole thing.
Nice.
Besides Nashville, I think they only have room for our stuff, so we're not going to have the full blown one. And then both B-Sides San Antonio and the Layer 8 conference are in June. Right. And we're going to do the full blown thing for both of those. Okay. And that makes me happy because Megan's doing San Antonio since she's down there, and I'm doing Layer 8, which is in Rhode Island, and they're both on June 8th. So we now have like 2 full-blown setups going at once.
Yeah. My problem is a lot of these are only one-day conference. So if I'm in Seattle, so if I travel east, I'm wasting a whole day of travel just to get someplace for a whole day, and then I've got to turn right around and fly back the next day. It's rough. So I need to find some more conferences that are like multi-day so that it'll make it worth my while to fly back. So, or maybe I should, get up the gumption and submit for more talks. But
I may be going to Vegas this year. In fact, I probably will be.
Yeah.
What about you?
I want to. I've been asked to help volunteer at the Mental Health Hacker Village. I suggested that last year. So
in Vegas?
Yeah, I need to make sure that I've got a ticket and that it's not like 800 degrees. But
yeah, so in Vegas, if I'm not positive we're doing it there, we would need a sponsor to get us a suite because I think DEF CON's too big to have it and have it be any good.
Right.
And then other stuff with other conferences, but I kind of want to do like Diana Initiative or whatever, where it's just a suite where people can go and chill out and hang out.
Yeah.
But like I can't afford all that on my own because suites in Vegas are really expensive.
What?
More than what I have.
Okay. So we're putting out a call for sponsors for B-Sides.
Right.
If anybody is wanting to throw around some money and help out the Mental Health Hacker Village and be at B-Sides, Las Vegas.
It's just going to be the whole week.
The whole week?
I kind of wanted it for the whole week, kind of just at a hotel in between everything, kind of just. But then, like, I don't know. It's weird because, like, in Vegas, everybody already has their own hotel room. Like, everything's so far to get to. Would it be worth it? Would people get anything out of it? Like, I don't want to just throw money at something and not actually have it help anybody.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's kind of a waste.
All right. Well, if you are a sponsor or somebody who has money and would like to sponsor this, please reach out to Ms. Berlin. Ms. Berlin, how would people
take your money?
How would people reach out to you if they were interested in maybe sponsoring you for Hacker Summer Camp?
So sponsors at mentalhealthhackers.org.
And it's a 501c3, so you can do all your charitable donations and feel good about yourself.
Well, we just submitted the paperwork, so it should be another month or two before we get like the official designation. But we're close.
Right.
Yeah, and at Hackers Health on Twitter or InfoSister.
There you go, Mr. Betcher. If people are going to come to B-Sides Austin, how would they contact you and talk about things and maybe schedule a meetup of the Brakesec team?
Yeah, Twitter at BetcherPwned or log-md.com. Get me there.
I'm told we're getting breakfast tacos at B-Sides Austin.
Oh my God! Y'all better get them from a good place because if you
I am going based on people that are from Austin. They're telling me where to get food. I've never been to Texas before, so I expect good food.
Austin and breakfast tacos are like a religion there, dude. You have no idea. So if you get it wrong, you're going to get it really wrong, so. Definitely talk to Goff or somebody, Mr. Betcher, and find out where the good places are if you're going to buy them. So, yeah. So the podcast, Brakesec, if you are interested in following us, you can hit us up on Twitter at Brakesec, BRAKESEC. I'm on Twitter at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. Welcome if you just saw my Wheel of 4chan tweet last week, which apparently went over like gangbusters. I blame the gummies for the Wheel of 4chan comment. So, yeah, I don't know. I was watching Wheel of Fortune, and all of a sudden I heard Wheel of Fortune, and I didn't know why I said that. But anyway, Anyway, we have a Patreon. We mentioned Andrei earlier, who turned us on to the Under the Wire stuff. He's a longtime member of our and supporter and sponsor of the show through Patreon. If you found value in today's talks about PSremoting and the UEFI stuff and all the other things, and it's more like a tip jar. So you even give only $1 that goes to help support our Slack subscription and our hosting for Libsyn. Also goes to the time and effort we do for cultivating community and getting the podcast out. So please feel free to hit that up. I think it's there's details in the show notes on how to get a hold of that if you want to join, or you can just go to Patreon and look for Breaking Down Security Podcasts. So let me see. We have a store if you want to buy a t-shirt, one with Ms. Berlin's face on it, or one for the Breaking Down Security Podcast. You can do so as well. We get a little bit of a kickback from that.
Did you see my face and the Momo girl's face like next to each other?
I did not.
What? I'll have to send it to you.
Oh, please do.
It's scary. Like
you need to upload maybe another picture of you as a T-Rex or something, and
I have me in the unicorn costume.
Oh, okay. Well, people don't know it's you in the unicorn, though, right?
I mean, a handful of people knew.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah, if you want to join the Slack, send a DM over to the Brakesec Twitter or email bds.podcast@gmail.com. And I'm going to tease Project Hannibal because I'm trying to figure out how to turn ourselves into a nonprofit here for that as well for the podcast. So we'll be giving more information out on that as the days go on. So that was it this week for Breaking Down Security. Did I miss anything? Patreon. Thanks for our supporters of Patreon. I think we're good. Yeah. Okay. If we didn't, if we forgot something, please let us know. But that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Have a great rest of your week. Be kind to one another, please. And be sure to take care of yourself because you're the only you have. And talk to you again soon.
Bye-bye.